Good evening, Judge Mothle.
Good evening, Chief Justice. And good
How are
evening,
you, sir?
members of the Commission. I'm fine.
Yes.
I'm fine, Chief Justice.
I apologize to you for inviting you only this late. We're really sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's all right, Chief Justice. I accept the apology.
Thank you. For how many years have you been on the bench now?
10 years. It's 10 years on the bench.
And for how many years were you on the bench when you did that inquest?
I think I was 7 years on the bench because it was 2017. Yes, if I recall, it was 2017. I was 7 years on the bench.
And how? Thank you. And for how many terms did you act at the SCA?
It's for 4 terms, the whole year. I started in December 2017 to November 2018.
Very briefly, tell us how ready you are for this position.
Yes, I am ready. I've been to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and what motivates me to decide to go to the Supreme Court of Appeal is because of the number of matters that I wrote which went to the Supreme Court of Appeal where I was set aside. And I felt that perhaps we are not on the same page, and I may want to end my career there and make a contribution, in particular, in regard to matters which we do not agree. There was one matter that I wrote, one judgment I wrote in 2013. It went to the Supreme Court of Appeal. It was set aside. And the party that was successful before me went to the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court set aside the Supreme Court of Appeal and upheld my judgment. And in the package that I've put in, there is a dissenting judgment that I wrote. We were 5 on the bench. I was the only acting judge. And the 4 permanent members took one position and I took the other. I dissented. And the matter went to the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court set aside the 4 members and upheld my minority judgment. So I believe that I have a lot to offer there in terms of ensuring that our jurisprudence grows, because if you have a situation where more and more judges are able to take a stand in regard to the principles they believe in, an independent stand, and assert it in the form of judgments, something that I've noticed has been very infrequent in the SCA. There are a few judges who've been doing that, but for the greater part, there seems to be a situation where you have judgments where all the judges are agreed most of the time. And I would wonder whether we will grow if people do not assert themselves. I wrote 2 minority judgments during the period of 1 year when I was there. And I felt that that's one area in which I want to make a contribution, so that then the culture must begin to develop, that judges must take an independent stand on issues and be able to articulate a stand. So that's the reason why I feel I'd like to end my career there, because I have 5 years to go to my retirement. And I believe this is the appropriate time to make a move to the Supreme Court of Appeal.
Thank you very much, Judge Mothle. Colleagues, let me just, before I hand over to the President, ask signification by those who want to speak or put questions to the judge.
Singh.
Over to you, President. Oh,
And both.
over to you, President.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good evening, Judge Mothle.
Good evening, Justice Maya.
I don't have many questions for you because we interviewed you very recently in April 2019 for a position at the SCA. All I'm going to ask you is whether there have been any relevant new developments in your career that you'd want to share with us since April 2019?
Yes, after the interview, shortly before the interview, the President of the Republic appointed me to assist Judge Makanya in the special tribunal. Is the tribunal that deals with matters of corruption. And after the interview and in discussion with Judge President Blambo, I went to Johannesburg to join Justice Makanya, who's the head of the special tribunal, to assist him to set up the systems. What I did there, I found that they had a draft, they drafted rules. But after Minister Lamola had published regulations, I then prepared a draft to amend the rules to bring them in line with the Act and the regulations. And I thereafter prepared for Justice Makanya to publish directives, practice directives, the first set of practice directives for the tribunal. And in the meantime, of course, I've been presiding on cases in the tribunal, including the Gauteng PPE. That's how it's known, but it's SIU versus Ledla. I wrote a judgment which I delivered in December, and last week they were before me, some of them asking for leave to appeal.
What would happen? Oh, sorry, have you finished?
No, I just wanted to complete by saying that.
Yes, please.
We are appointed for 3 years and our term ends in February 2022.
Next February.
Yes.
All right. So if you were appointed for this position, you would continue until then?
Not necessarily, Judge Maya, because there are quite a number of matters that have been investigated by the SIU, which are running in the High Court. And some of my colleagues in the High Court have presided over matters of corruption. So it will not be difficult for the minister to find a substitute. And in fact, I believe that we have had one member, Judge Desai, who has since retired. And Judge Makaya was in the process of working out a representation to the president through the minister to ensure that we receive additional members to assist, because the SIU has indicated that there is a large caseload of matters that are now being finalized after investigation, which will be coming our way. But that would not stop me from leaving if I have to. As I said, there would be judges in the High Court who will step in without much ado. These cases are in the High Court and are being presided over by my colleagues there.
Okay. Is your health situation still under control?
Yes. I have disclosed in the form that last year in August, I contracted this coronavirus. But
many of us did.
Fortunately, because I had the comorbidities, I recognized the symptoms quickly and I got medication. I never had to go to the hospital. In 8 days, it was already out and I was healed. Since then, I haven't had any problem.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Judge Mothle. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, President. Honorable Singh.
Thank you very much. Good evening to you, Judge.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah, just two questions. One it relates to your questionnaire. It's for the first time that I've seen a questionnaire with incomplete information. And if you look to items 13, 14, and 15, there is nothing at all that you've indicated there. The questions regard to publications, writings, and publications outside the field of law. Is there any reason why you've left that completely blank, or not even saying not applicable or whatever? Thank you. First question.
13, 14, and 15. Well, yeah, it must have been oversight because in the one draft that I had, I wrote NA, 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 just like in 2019 when I came here for interview. The situation hasn't changed.
Okay, no, I just picked that up because it's completely blank there. Right, my second question relates to the question put to you by the Chief Justice and your reason that you've stated why you feel you need to go to the SCA. I want to put it to you that perhaps, like you said, because many of your judgments have been taken there and there's been, comments on your judgments, that it's payback time. I want to come there and show you guys how you should be doing your work. And I want to juxtapose that vis-a-vis the very, very important role you're playing in the special tribunal. And as we all know, corruption is cancer in our society. And do you not think that you could better serve the country by continuing on the special tribunal? And, who knows, that period may be extended to well after 2022, given the number of cases that are emerging at different fora, including the Zondo Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Commissioner, the special tribunal, the work that we do there, as I've pointed out, it is not specialist work. It's work that we've been doing even in the high courts. And I believe that I'm really not indispensable there. There are other judges who will step in and will be willing to assist. And as I said earlier on, I'm looking at the last 5 years of my career. I'm now 40 years in legal practice, and I had a checkered legal career, and I felt that I need to end it in the higher court, in the appeal court. The most important role I played in the special tribunal has been to set up the systems and the structures, that is the staffing and the procedures. I believe I have assisted Judge Makaya in that regard. He is also satisfied with that. All that remains is matters to be presided over, which judges in the High Court will be able to do. And or judges who are retired will be able to come in and assist. And it was never my wish to end my career in the special tribunal. I would like to make a contribution in the appeal court.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable Dodovu.
Thank you very much, CJ. Good evening, Justice.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, I'm happy that you promptly responded to the science which made you to recuperate from COVID-19 infection. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, just tabulate for me at least 5 attributes of a good judge of the SCA.
Well, a good judge generally, and be it in the SCA, the Constitutional Court, or the High Court, should have judicial temperament, should be able to relate well with colleagues.
Just tabulate.
Yes,
Just list them. It's okay.
judicial temperament, the ability to write judgments and write them well, the ability to function at the SCA in a team situation, especially coming from the High Court where you sit alone for the most part. At the SCA, you are one of the five most of the time, and you have to adapt to do that. And of course, the pressure of adapting to the system and culture at the SCA, in that you have to make sure that all your judgments are written and finalized before the end of term.
Okay. Okay, it's fine. You know, when I was growing up, I knew this attribute about judges, and I was taught that this is a good attribute, and I've not heard any judge talking about it. Can you just talk to me about that? An idiom that says you are sober like a judge, which means that you are clear in your mind, you can see your way, and late people no longer talk about that. Well, what could be the reason?
I cannot speak. I cannot speak for people. I don't know why they wouldn't talk about that, because as far as I'm concerned, that idiom is still as relevant as it was before. And sober in my sense and understanding is that as an independent judge, you must be able to apply your mind independently without fear or favor, and also be able to have a sense of justice. And you must have a most important attribute. You must have integrity. That is our premium, integrity.
All right, thank you, CJ.
Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Dodovu, even for the provocation. Commissioner Mpofu.
Thank you. Good evening, Judge Mothle.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, Commissioner.
How are you this evening?
I'm fine.
Thank you. Yes, no, I just wanted to ask you one thing. About the Timol inquest,
Yes.
which you did, and I think the whole country was watching the developments there. But from a lawyer's point of view, if you could just share how, you know, this was an apartheid murder that happened more than 50 years ago.
Yes.
And it was a matter where the evidence, even some of the witnesses had died and the evidence was stale and so on. So I have a special interest in pushing the boundaries of the law and you know, taking new approaches. To what extent did you have to improvise, if you know what I mean, and deal with the special challenges that came with a matter like that, which is not your normal criminal case where you have a witness, this one did this, this one did that, or there's video evidence or whatever. And that's the one part of the question. The second one is, you know, we always say judges are human too. At a personal level, having to deal with something like that, which is like an apartheid atrocity of the highest order, how much of the judicial temperament that you're talking about you had to tap into in order to deal with it, you know, to try and distance yourself from to the extent necessary. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Mpofu. When the judge president gave me that assignment, I realized early on that there was no precedent to follow. It was the first case of its kind in South Africa. And I knew, as I went through the motions, that every step I'm taking is setting a precedent, that there may be others to come, and my colleagues will have to follow that. So I took my time with everything. The first difficulty I had is that some of the documents had disappeared. And as you point out, some of the witnesses have long passed on. But what really was helpful was the full judgment of the magistrate was still there. And in that judgment, he had summarized the evidence of all the witnesses who testified before him at that time, including the medical reports by the late Dr. Lackman, who was representing the family. So those documents survived. And what was the fundamental flaw about that finding by the magistrate is that Mr. Timol was detained with a number of people who were held in the same cells in John Foster Square building. They were in the same cells and they were being interrogated in the rooms adjacent. Those people were never called and they heard what was going on. As he was being interrogated and tortured throughout, they heard every bit of the sound that came in there and the screams that came in there. And they were able to paint a picture together with the experts that the family called this time, were able to reconstruct the body as they found it and the injuries that were post-mortem and those that could have come before he fell. And so it helped to give a balance, as well as the evidence of the members of the liberation movement, mainly the African National Congress, those who trained some of the witnesses that were still available. And also a strange thing happened while we were sitting. I received, as people were watching, the witnesses who were denying having tortured people during detention. The following day, I would get an affidavit from someone saying, this person interrogated me, he's not telling the truth, and he assaulted me during detention. Many evidence that, many affidavits that came in. The evidence was overwhelming. And that was the one part. The other part in maintaining composure in the face of all that was that when I started my career, I served articles under Maluleke, Siriti, and Moseneke. I was working a lot of cases with then Mr. Moseneke, the former, the retired Deputy Chief Justice. So I handled a number of political cases and I knew the extent of the torture of witnesses and political activists in detention. And I've seen photographs of people who died in detention during that time. So my mind went back to that period and I was able to compose myself and I kept telling myself, you've been here before. You have seen this happen, you've been here before. And I had to study the proceedings to ensure that we were able to complete the work. The sad thing is that some of the people who came through during the hearing, who also requested the reopening of their the death in detention of their next of kin, looked up to the High Court to open up additional inquests. And we had to explain that it was not up to the High Court to do that, it was up to the NPA to do that. And to this day, we're waiting on the NPA to come up with those cases. And so it wasn't easy, especially when I visited the rooms where they were being tortured. And in particular, the room where Timor spent his last moments. It wasn't easy. But I had to proceed and to finalize the matter.
Thank you, CJ.
CJ, a very small follow-up on this inquest question, if you don't mind. It's a very short one.
Yes, yes, JP.
Thank you. Judge Mothle, you've said your assignment of this Timol inquest was the first one. Now, what I want to check with you, subsequently, there was a Neil Agate inquest that's running in Joburg. I think it's about to be finalized, if not yet finalized.
Yes.
And the Esedimeni one has also been set up.
Yes.
The judges, they are both in Gauteng, one in
Yes.
Pretoria, one in Joburg.
Yes.
Have you been on hand to assist them?
Yes.
When they approached you?
Yes, indeed. I have had discussions before the inquest in Johannesburg started. I had discussions with the judge and I referred him to my report. And I shared.
And the one in Pretoria?
And the one in Pretoria, she contacted me by phone.
Well, I wanted that fact to come out, that it's one of the senior women.
Yes,
now
she
running
contacted me by phone.
Yeah.
And I sort
But
of.
thank you. If
spelled
you've been
out.
on hand to assist and hand over
Yes.
skills, thank you very much. That's
Okay,
all.
thank you.
Thank you, CJ.
Thank you, JP. Thank you, Judge Mothle.
With your indulgence.
Oh, okay, okay, Minister. I didn't have you down. Please proceed.
Yeah, no, I did not write. I just want to confirm what Judge Mothle just said about the tribunal. He has been very helpful there with Judge Bakaya, even in terms of the setup and the rules. And on these matters that he has just spoken about of the inquest, it was not an easy thing even from our side when we requested the JP, because we're worried about the information and so forth. But it does look like the matters are being handled very well. Thank you, CJ.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Judges Vipara must say, I never had a chance to say, without going into any merits, I must say you handled that inquest with great wisdom and dignity. It was a pleasure to watch you dispense justice in the manner that you did. Thank you very much. You're excused.
CJ,
Thank you, CJ.
CJ,
Yeah, is that Honorable Malema?
I also want to thank the sober judge.
Thank you, Mr. Malema. Thank you.
You're excused, sir. Thank you very much.